Hi everybody, how y'all doing? And welcome to the Ice House, where we try to keep things cool, calm, collected, and mostly a bit chill. Well, as you all probably figured out, I like to ponder and contemplate, sometimes maybe not ask the universe the deep questions, because the only time you beg the universe, or beg the question to the universe, it usually answers and tells you something you didn't want to hear. So, sometimes I just ask myself things and give myself answers that I didn't want to hear. But at least, in some sorts of sense of way, I kind of knew it all along, right? I mean, like those introspective episodes of TV shows, kind of as a bottleneck episode, or something to kind of help further the plot and process of, but you need that internal development, right? But I mean, isn't that what Year in Review is basically, anyway, right? The whole idea of, before we make our New Year's resolutions, which, as we've talked about, and then as I've said, and I've talked with some of you guys recently, that I don't really think New Year's resolutions are made to be kept. I think the whole idea of New Year's resolutions are after the, they're kind of how you would say the response to the internal processing of, well, at least the surface level of how did I do this last year? What did I do well? What did I not do well? What are the things I kind of want to work on? And on the tip of the iceberg surface level, there's things that seem like they could be beneficial, but especially when it comes to the idea of the reactionary. See, I'm going back to previous lore, if you guys are, in conversations, if you guys are following along at home. So, I do believe that the New Year's resolutions are a bit more reactionary in a lot of ways, because, I've said by the first, second, or third month, most people have, dropped them, because they weren't really anything heartfelt, right? They weren't anything deep-seated. It was just sort of a, well, this might make me feel better about my life, even though it takes a lot of effort, and if the motivation isn't there, well, it doesn't work. It's like things that take resolve and commitment, like, I don't think, well, some might say that some people take commitment as deep as marriage as like a New Year's resolution, but at least sometimes dating relationships, let's go with that, right? And it's this idea that seems fun and good, but not a lot of commitment sometimes, but something like who you think about spending the rest of your life with on a more permanent basis is not something that you take so lightly as a gym membership that you get a 12-month discount on, right? Or, saying I was able to get Hulu for, really cheap for 12 months during Black Friday, which doesn't really count as a New Year's resolution, actually, right? That was just a really good deal. So, I digress. But, I mean, honestly, like I said, before we get to how we react to resolve things, yeah, that's an irony of wordplay right there, we have to think about, well, what we have to get to through the input of how did we do this year? What are we willing to acknowledge that we did well, that we didn't do well, and are we willing to really look through the reasons of why they were good or bad or ugly? So, I mean, for me personally, I think there's a lot of decisions we make, sticking to our guns and our resolve and our belief, and like I've said before, I'm a little punk penguin, and I do what I want, and hopefully what I do, when I do, and how I do it, at least is consistent with the character that I'm, trying to be, and the integrity of the person who I want to be, right? But every now and then, sometimes we always get pushed in a corner that's not necessarily an ideal situation. And sometimes we don't know if we made the right decision. I mean, that's sort of a misnomer, right? Sometimes we make the best decision for, well, where we are at the moment and what's going on, because, you know, when trying to explain something to somebody else and when there's other people involved, sometimes it's really hard to explain all the internal processes and all of the things that, well, we don't necessarily need to explain to everybody all our reason and all our purpose and all our function as to why we need to do something. And sometimes, if they're friends and they care about us, and, you know, we can work on resolving it later or working through it later, right? If the desired outcome isn't what happens, or we don't always meet other people's expectations, right? And I'm not saying being a defiant little punk and running away with my tail between my legs or anything like that. It's just, there are times when, you know, when we're looking at all 12 months of the year, I'm sure there's things we aren't proud of and we don't really want to talk about. But that doesn't mean we can't introspectively think about them and be honest with ourselves and realize, you know, we might have been part of the whole process because we were involved in the whole process, and sometimes the things we did or said out loud that might have been honest and true might have perpetuated something into motion that, well, we couldn't have anticipated, and now we're here, right? I mean, this is why I said earlier in the year that I don't like to close the door on anything or walk away or give up on anything, because we all have days and moments that, well, we might not do well, and to allow that to define ourselves, you know, like I was saying a few weeks about the guilt that keeps on giving, we can't let those moments define ourselves so much that we can't move on and get over them. In the same way that, I mean, we can't define somebody else that we've known or people that have been in our lives by some single action and discredit everything they've also done and been through and, well, been to us, right? So, wow, this is kind of feeling like a Debbie Downer, isn't it? But I don't want to stay in this place forever, because, well, there's a lot of good things and a lot of positive things that have happened over the course of the year that it's also good to introspectively think about and realize there are things that we need to take credit for and things we did well and reasons that, I don't know, if you look at where you were a year ago, I mean, have you learned from those lessons that maybe you weren't proud of? Have you, has that instilled something in who you are? Even baby steps that you're not the same person that you were back then? Because instead of maybe making some cheesy New Year's resolution, you had a resolve to, well, grow as a person. And I think that sort of reflection at the end of the year is really more important, right? To see that, okay, there's things I'm not proud of. But you know what? There's things I'm getting better at. And maybe in the process of not doing well, I'm eliminating some of the issues and reasons and causalities and maybe getting to the heart of the problem after all, right? Because honestly, sometimes when you're trying to work through and fix something, you may not like the answer you're getting, and you may not like where the path is going. But you know what else? Sometimes being afraid of the future and being afraid of where that path may lead is kind of silly, because we don't know where it's going really. We just see the direction it's headed. And sometimes the people and the places we go along the way make us realize that maybe the trajectory or the way we thought our life was spiraling out of control really wasn't spiraling at all. It was just getting us to where we needed to be one more time, right? So, with all the ups and downs of the years, maybe the path you've taken isn't so crazy, and maybe you can be, I don't know, you can look back and see that maybe there's a lot of people and places, and, things you've been able to experience that if you had been afraid to go forward to the unknown, you might have missed out on all of them, right? Yep. Well, as for me, I know there's things I've done this year that I'm not proud of. And there's things that I think I'm doing better and think that I have, hopefully, and whether it be on YouTube or with the people that I know outside of the internet, hopefully I'm showing some sort of growth, right? Because instead of reacting and trying to change everything at once and missing the point, it's all about the little baby steps and the baby waddles and the resolve that each interaction gives us to, keep growing as a person or a puppet or whatever mythological or fictional character you might be. So, I guess if that made any sense, let me know. Put something down in the comments. And, if you want to like or subscribe or share this out because you like this pondering penguin and, you think other people should hang out here too, well, then go for it. And if this didn't make any sense, hopefully I'll make more sense in the new year. Till then, see you later. Bye!